Perfect. Okay, good evening. I am Reg Gosling from Improving Performance Personal Coaching, and it's Monday, the 18th of November. Thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your busy evening if you're watching this live. Alternatively, thank you for taking the time to watch it if you're watching it on catch-up. So if I can take 2 minutes to tell you about the program, what I'm going to do is flip over and show you some deckware that I've put together. I think it's very boring, you just sitting there watching me all the time, so I'll give you something to concentrate on. The reason being is that people take in information in different ways. Some are kinesthetic, some like the auditory, some like visual. So I just found a way for that to work for you. So if you bear with me just a second, then I will share my screen with you. Here we are. Boom. Perfect. Okay, as I said, I'm Reg Gosling from Improving Performance. I want to take a couple of minutes just to tell you what it is that we do. I am a career development practitioner, and this is a career coaching practice that I run and manage, which is running different programs for different generations and careers. Generations are people born and living around at the same time, then they tend to experience the same life challenges for the time. They're regarded collectively in those generations over a period during which they grow together as children, but they become adults and they begin to have children of their own. So structurally, generations designates the parent-child relationship. In career terms, it's a group of people who experience the same significant events within a period of time, and they are, or they tend to be the basis of social and business analysis. But the workplace in itself is a multi-generational place, which creates its own unique challenges for those different generations. So just to give you a guide of who they are, and so you'll know where you are in this. It's different dependent on who you speak to. It's different in different continents. So in the US, it's slightly different in the years, and in the UK, this is it generally. It's not exact to, but Generation X are people born around 1964, and they grow up until around 1980. So that's the Generation X. So Generation X people are today people aged around 40 to 55, something like that, 56. Before them were baby boomers, and the baby boomers were born around the mid-1940s after the war. That's why they got the name, and to around 1963, 64, something like that. So some of them, quite a lot of them are still in the workplace. So they're aged between 58, 57, 58 and 73 at the moment. The millennials are the most talked about generation today, and they are aged in the bracket of around 25 to 39. They're also known as Generation Y. And you've also got something called Xennials, and the only reason that they have their own small category of around 10 years is because they were born around the mid-70s to around the mid-80s. And the reason that that's important is that they were born at a time when everything was analog. Yeah, whether it was your television, your telephone, it was all analog. But as adults, they're in the digital age, so they've had to embrace two lots of technologies. So they understand two lots of technologies better than anybody else. Then you've got the Generation Z, who are around in the workplace. The oldest of Generation Z at the moment is around 24 years old. Okay, so just to give you a view of what this is that we're doing here, this is a group coaching event for people with different backgrounds, different experiences and different requirements. And it's for people that want career development because they can't necessarily get it where they are at the moment. They don't know how to get the career development they're looking for. It might be that the business that they work for doesn't have that kind of resource for them. It's for people that are looking just for personal development. People like me, I like to just go online and I just take learning. If it's free, I will watch it. Sometimes I do pay for it, but sometimes if it's free, then it's easy to plug into and get some nuggets out of it. It's also for those people that are unsure really of what coaching is. They've heard the term, they've seen people online talking about it, but they're not necessarily au fait with what it is. There are people out there that do know what it is, but don't necessarily understand what the benefit to working with a coach is. And some people do know what it's all about. They just want a little bit of a taster. Sometimes you'll get this here, sometimes not. It just depends on what the subject is when I'm working on these workshop videos. It's also for people that are seeking career change. Some people want to do something totally different. They've been in a role for some considerable time and they want to see what skills they have, what skills they need to go and do what they want to do next. There are people that are coming back into the working environment because they've taken a period of time out at the moment. So they're coming back in. There are people who are unchallenged. And when I say unchallenged, it means they get up, they go to work, the car or the bike or whatever it is pretty much drives itself because there's nothing really to be excited about, which is a hell of a shame. And there's people out there who know all of this stuff, but they don't necessarily have the resources to engage an intervention specialist. And there are very varied different types of intervention specialists out there, from mentors, from consultants, from practitioners, coaching practitioners. So it depends on what it is that you're actually looking for, okay? The structure of this call is that it's like a coaching session. I might ask questions. Today I'm not, but I might ask questions. You have a pen and paper that you can use to take notes. You're going to be somewhere quiet where you won't be interrupted, and it can be one way, which today will be one way. You can ask questions in the box. I know that there's a question box here. I'm using the Zoom platform. I've tried a couple of different ones and they all seem to fail me when I do it live. I'm doing it live now and I'm keeping to this platform. It's never let me down. And sometimes I have been known to do a Facebook Live on a Thursday following the Monday call. And the reason I do that once in a while is if there are some really important key questions. So sometimes I will pull that call together on a Thursday and it'll only be for 5, 6, 7, 10 minutes maximum just to answer questions. Just because somebody else knows the answer doesn't necessarily mean other people do. So I like to share that. And I'll post those answers once I've taken them in the Career Advancement Development group pages. Okay, so every session will have a topic of focus, and I set them in advance as I did here. And this one this week is about your purpose. Eventually it will be subscription, so you don't have to worry too much about that right now. But it's around 30 minutes, of which we've used 7. So I seem to be about a minute behind. So let's get started. The objective for this event is that by the end of this event, you will be able to ask yourself questions about your purpose, and you'll be able to define what you believe your purpose is. You'll be able to define what you believe that your purpose is, and you'll be able to understand how purpose can support career change, can support career change transition and career change development. And you'll be able to understand the value that you may be able to offer to other people. And finally, you'll be able to understand how clarity on purpose can support your achievement. So let's get underway and just answer the question so that we all know exactly what we're talking about when we say purpose. What is purpose? Purpose is an aim, okay? It's an objective to be achieved over a period of time. So in order to thrive and survive, the human being must have the challenge of an objective to achieve. And this is their purpose, okay? Their life purpose. Whatever your purpose is, it guides your decision making. It influences your behavior, and it's driven by your values and your belief infrastructure. So with careers, your purpose will be defined if it's something that you studied and qualified for, or you're passionate about, or a vocation, if you like. It could be that you have a job that you do with a purpose, or more practical outcomes. Paying the bills, looking after someone, work is fine, absolutely. Understanding your purpose often results in a person living a more meaningful life compared to those that don't have real purpose. I had pulled together like 6 areas that can help with your purpose and your career, okay? The purpose of a name is, as I said before, it's an objective. Remember, it's for you to thrive and survive. It guides your decision-making, your influences, your behavior, and your values and beliefs. I read that again because I wasn't sure if I just read it or if it came up again. So, finding your purpose. Okay, do you know how to find your purpose? Do you know what it is? Do you know how to find it? If you posed that question to several people, the majority would probably say no. And it's because there's a a world of possibilities out there, and people are afraid to try something new out of fear of the unknown. They don't want to come outside of their comfort zone. They often don't know how to go about looking for what they should be doing. So you need to first ask if what you're doing now is satisfying for you. So put aside all the bills and your pay slip for a moment, put all that to one side and ask yourself this question. Do you get a buzz out of getting up in the morning? Do you get a buzz out of getting up every morning to go to work? How do you feel on Sunday evenings, assuming that your working week starts on Mondays? Do you dread having to get up on the morning of a Monday, or does it excite you? Another problem is you may feel stuck doing something which you don't necessarily believe. So suppose you work for a company that isn't doing right by the community. It may be legal, but you don't feel it's ethical, or it doesn't sit with your values. It pays well, and that's why you stick with it. You even like many of the people who work there, but the company sells something that makes your stomach turn, for instance. An example of this would be working for a tobacco company, for instance. I'm just not denigrating the tobacco company, I'm just using that as an example. So you need to ask yourself if you can continue to work in an environment which doesn't fit well with you. You'll also need to ask yourself, what will it take to make changes to get out of your current situation into something that you actually enjoy? It may require going back to further education or at least training online. Luckily, there are several options available to you. Many of them are cheap, and quite a few of them are free. And if you find that the path is well laid out for you, then ask yourself, are you willing to put in the time? Are you willing to make an effort? And if you're not, then you haven't really or truly found your purpose. You either need to continue what you're doing or find another path. That's one I believe. You need to find another direction. Keep doing this until you're willing to put in the effort. You should explore your current situation and determine if you can change or adapt your routine. For instance, you can ask your company if there are other opportunities within the organization that you can explore to help you with your career development. And if there are, they may ask you to serve two roles. You don't know. You might have to do your old role and your new one and combine them. But that shows willing to the people that make the decisions whilst you're in transition. So working like this could require you putting in overtime once in a while, or investing in yourself with your time, for instance. But it gives you some options to explore your own purpose. Okay, so the second one is obstacles. And these obstacles can define your purpose in life. So if you don't know your purpose in life, look back on the obstacles that you faced. Some obstacles you have no choice but to work through. For example, if you don't pay taxes, if you don't pay your taxes, then the HR or the HMRC or the tax man will eventually find you. It's rare that people get away with that, is it? So these are not the obstacles that actually define you. They're just annoyances that you've just got to sort out. You can choose to handle or ignore other obstacles that you face. Your choices help you to define your purpose. So if you come across a problem at work, for instance, that requires a skill that you don't have, you can either let someone else handle it or learn how to do it yourself. And this experience will carry you through and possibly get you a promotion. But on the other hand, if you let others handle the problem because you weren't qualified or confident, then you weren't meant to find a solution, were you? It's not part of your purpose. You may believe that you can learn any skill, and you know what, to some extent that is true, but if it's something you aren't passionate about or isn't something you desire to learn, that you really, really, really want to learn, then it's going to be difficult. You won't have a passion for everything that comes your way. In fact, you may feel the opposite about quite a lot of them. But when you're willing to do what it takes to overcome certain obstacles, you should look at the process on how you actually did it. Having the determination to overcome a barrier helps to define your purpose. But the steps that led to the solution can be quite telling for you. So don't underestimate this, as there may be hidden clues to better understanding yourself. In fact, the obstacle itself may not have defined much, but something within the process told you a hell of a lot more. So obviously, the bigger the obstacle, the more defining it will be for you. Small obstacles and everyday problems are not going to make much of a difference about your purpose. though how you go about overcoming them may well do. If there are obstacles that are too overwhelming for you, try to work out why. When you break those down, you may find the reasons are no longer valid for you. You may have had a stigma about something and made assumptions that can't handle it. So that's your limiting beliefs that are at play there. But new experiences are the wisdom of age. The wisdom of age, of getting older. They may actually help you to see that it's not as difficult as you might have believed, and that is part of what defines you with regards to your purpose. The third one really is how to pursue career change, and I've done that myself. I did it back in 2015, and it was absolutely massive for me. And if you like me, you were at your wit's end with your current career, you may want to consider making a change. It's a scary proposition, because you may have a decent salary. You know, starting something new may require you to take a cut in pay, and you know what it usually does. You may have become accustomed to a nice, comfortable lifestyle, so it's not something to take lightly. But sticking with a job you hate, sticking with a job that you despise, even when the pay is really good, can be a soul-sucking proposition for you. You must spend 8 hours or more working, so why not make those hours fulfilling for you? A career change may be just a way to accomplish this. So you may keep in mind that your career is not necessarily your purpose in life. It may be part of it, but for many people, there's a need to look a little bit deeper. Okay, so to use an example for that, you may love helping others out. You may feel that that might be your purpose. And if your current career situation doesn't focus on helping people, then this can help you to determine where to look to make the changes in your life and in your career. Try to find the organizations where you can make a difference. If you go this route, you will align what you want to do for your career with what you feel is your purpose, and that will make your new career choice fulfilling for you. It can give you a reason to want to get up to go to work, to get out of bed in the morning, which is absolutely fantastic when that happens. I had a job in London, in Chiswick, for 3 years, and I absolutely flew out of bed in the morning and drove the 2 hours across London to get there, because I was really passionate about it. Okay, so don't let a pay cut hold you back. There are plenty of ways to supplement your income that doesn't require taking on a traditional job. You can freelance part-time to fill in the gaps if you want to, and the extra money will help you to pay for any training that you need for your new career path. So the beginning stages of a career switch are usually the most challenging. They're the hardest part. You need to combine learning with climbing the corporate ladder, as I used to call it. And if you're starting your own business for the first time, for instance, then there will be so much to learn. I can very much attest to that. You'll continually need to be learning. Whichever way you do it, expect to put in long hours, especially in the beginning. When you focus on tying your career and finding your purpose together, the decisions needed to establish your new path become much more natural. It feels easier. Yeah, you could, of course, randomly pick a way forward. Of course you can. But it's more likely you'll succeed when you fit your career with who you are and who you want to become. Okay, so that's how to pursue career change. There's another one, pay attention to your daydreams. I've had this conversation so many times with people. They just ignore their daydream, just leave it as a wish, as a daydream. But they hold the key to your purpose, daydreams. That's what they're there for. So the next time that you catch yourself daydreaming, take a moment to reflect, think about your thoughts. Daydreams are like a mechanism that can remind you of what it is that you actually want. So in other words, they can be a guidance system to your purpose. I've used it, and I know a lot of people that have used it. So let me give you another example. Suppose you always wanted to start your own company. Let's say you wanted to start your own company. You may find this to be content of your daydreams. It might be the content, okay? So pay attention to that. And if you truly want to start a company, learn what steps that you need to take. Your daydreams are usually detailed enough to let you know what kind of business that you want to start. So if you always wanted to open a hardware store, for instance, you may want to like picture yourself dealing with customers and calling suppliers. Your daydreams may even show you solving problems in your imaginary business. I do it all the time before I go to bed, honestly. So when you have daydreams, try writing them down. Try writing down the details on a notepad. I keep a little small pad next to my bed with a pen, because if I don't write them down, I'm going to sit there thinking about it all night anyway. So it's easier just to scribble it down, then I can go back to it in the morning. So you can do this on a smart device. You can do it on a pad, but it's often more accessible if you've got a pad, and it's very easy to quickly scribble it down. You know, you just want to capture the details as quickly as possible before they go. So you do this for several weeks and try to notice the trends in your notes. These are hot topics that you can use to explore your new venture. So focus on any common themes that you might see. These can be your research points, for want of a better phrase. You're under no obligation or no tie to pursue those daydreams, but they are there for a reason. You know, they're part of who you are and what defines you. It could turn out that you pursue what you believe is your life purpose based on those daydreams. Then you find it wasn't what you were expecting. And when that happens, those daydreams will quickly disappear. Then you will likely discover others. But you should really explore them if you can. So don't worry if you think your daydreams are outlandish. Most successful people are out of the box thinkers. They likely had outlandish daydreams themselves. Okay, the difference is that they pursued what they daydreamed about. And there's no reason why you can't do the same. We all do it. We're all daydreamers. Sounds like a David Cassidy song right there. So it doesn't have to be a career change that makes the daydream relevant for you. Suppose you have always wanted to create an organization that helps others, for instance. You could do this. You could achieve this. You could do this without giving up your current situation. You can do it without giving up your career. So over time, you may decide to focus all of your energy on new philanthropy. Okay, there's nothing wrong with this. Just follow your daydreams. They know a lot more than you think. Number 5 is, what questions do people ask you? Okay, do you find that people ask you questions about certain topics? Perhaps you're good at computers, for instance, or your cousin calls you to get some advice. Others may want your opinion about Saturday's game, what's going to happen in the big match. You just happen to be a great armchair striker. You win at sports betting frequently, so you've got a rough idea of what's going on. So pay attention to the questions that people ask you. They could hold clues as to your purpose. It doesn't have to be centered around your job, although obviously, of course it could. But once people discover the topics that you know well, it won't matter whether you are at work or not. You'll get many, many questions. So try to write down as many of those questions as you can. So when you're trying to determine or understand your purpose, you can use them as a guide to help you to look for the answers. You aren't just doing it for the people asking the questions, although they will appreciate any insight that you can give them. But what you're really doing it for is for the benefit, to see what others online may have to say about the questions that you receive. If you're at work, you may find yourself all the time speaking with people in other departments. And that's a sign that you aren't in the right place when that happens. I know a lot of people that happens to as well, especially when businesses shrink and you become multi-skilled because you worked in one office and that's closed down a bit and you're working in another office, they still come to you. But that purpose means that you're tied to your job. So if you're a customer service advisor, but you're always getting asked questions from the sales department, it means that you're good at sales. Why else would they be asking you? So also try to focus on what questions you ask other people as well. These can actually give an insight into what you want. So these questions don't have to be work related. It can happen at social events. It can happen at events in your community. It can happen when you're talking to friends and neighbors. So concentrate really on the topics that you ask about the most. If you take part in forums or you blog online, you'll find the same type of situation happening. That happens all the time because I'm quite busy on Facebook. I get lots of questions asked of me, and I ask a lot of questions of other people. It's how I learn. But people on those platforms and those mediums will ask you questions when they find that you have authority on the topics that are given on those particular forums. But use caution when you're giving out information, but they'll never go away otherwise. And people are always not who they say they are. That's another thing about forums. And there's plenty of anonymity on the web, and sometimes it's warranted. But if you want to gain great insight into your purpose, just start journaling your life. I use the Best Self Journal, and I write everything down. So when people ask you questions, or when you ask questions of others, you can start to see patterns when you write down the actual answers. So that answers that question. What questions do people ask you? And the last one is finding that your purpose changes. Or it might be that your purpose may require change. You may already have a purpose, but it may require change. People have difficulty accepting change. We know this. Lots of people do not like change, but it's the one aspect of life that we know for a fact will happen. Change is going to happen whether we like it or not. If you don't do well with change, you should reverse your aversion to it. You need to embrace change. I know that you have to embrace it. It's the only way. Think of it this way. Perhaps you haven't found your purpose because you have resisted change. Okay, that's common. That's a common affliction in people. They simply refuse to accept that something different is happening in their lives. But the good news is that people do adapt quite easily. So after a while, you'll have no choice but to accept most of the changes that happen in your life. People close to you will move on. One way or the other, they'll move on, and you'll have to go through stages of life. In the end, you'll be happy and cherish the memories that you actually have. There are, though, unintended consequences in most changes that occur for you. For instance, your current boss may leave the company and a new one is going to take over. That happens all the time. And you enjoyed working for the old boss or the old manager, and you're dreading the new one. So the new one could be someone you don't like. But then again, the situation could now be beneficial to you. So perhaps you and the new boss think along similar lines, more so than your old boss. You don't know. You'll need to deal with the changes in your personal life too. Your kids are going to move out. I promise you. I know you might not think so, but your kids are going to move out of your house eventually. And you may have to one day take care of your parents or something like that. When you're young and first starting out on your own, you don't think of these things, but life happens. The most significant benefit of any change is that it may be just what is needed for you to find your own individual purpose. And if you're used to the same old routine, it doesn't seem right for you, changes may give you the boost. Change may give you the desire to find something that's absolutely right for you. And you should try to expose yourself to change far more often. Some changes you can't plan. We've just talked about that, but there are many that you can plan. So for instance, you can try to take an opposing point of view that you would never dare to have done in the past. Think about that. Take an opposing view of something that you would never done in the past. And if you favor a political party at the moment, speak with people from the opposite party. Try to keep an open mind when you're doing that and ask them how they chose that point of view. That's how you learn. You can find some purpose out of that. So by exposing yourself to change, you'll become much, much, much better at accepting it. So when this happens, you may be closer to understanding and discovering who you are and what your purpose actually is. So that brings us to the end of those 6 purpose actions. Okay, and there are 10 in total, and I will make them available on the Improving Performance website if you want to, but this was just the first 6. So to recap, we talked about finding your purpose. Is what you're doing satisfying? Is it satisfying you? And that's one of the questions that you should ask yourself. The second one was obstacles, helping you to define your purpose, where we said that the bigger the obstacle, the more defining it can be for you. We talked about how to use your purpose to gain career change. understanding that most of your life is spent working. So why not make that time fulfilling for you? It's 8 hours. Why make it horrible, boring? Pay attention to your daydreams. That's my favorite one. And how daydreams can be a mechanism to remind you of what you want, a guidance system to your purpose, if you will. We talked about the questions that people asked, and they could hold clues to your real but unexplained purpose. And the last one we just spoke about was your purpose may need to change. And it may be a convenient change. It may be convenience in itself. So you need to embrace change. Okay. And I hope that you found all of that useful. That brings us to an end. And if you want to take the next step and you prefer a more exclusive arrangements on a one-to-one basis, then contact me. Okay. You can contact me on info@improvingperformance.co.uk. So to engage in a one-to-one basis to help you to achieve your goals, we have the Gold Package, which is a 3 to 6 month plan that we provide for clients, a Silver plan, which is a 1 month plan, and we have a Bronze plan, which is on an ad hoc basis where somebody just wants to speak to me one time. Surprisingly, I do have 1 or 2 of those kinds of clients. And we have the Platinum, which is a 2-day intensive. I've only ever done that once. I can't say I recommend it. I can't say I don't recommend it. Depends on who you are. But as a result of the 2-day intensive and the Bronze ad hoc, I launched recently the Focused Action Results Program, which is an unlimited 15-minute session. So what happens is you pay a fee for a year. I'm working on bringing that down to just 8 weeks. And in that 8 weeks, you can have as many 15-minute sessions as you want, because you have short-term goals that you want to achieve and you don't want to spread them over 3 to 6 months. So you can do that as well if you wish. We have a career advance and development group coaching community offer, where I'm offering potential clients at 20% off of my published price. So 3 to 6 month plan will drop to $2,400. The Silver 1 month plan is £960, and the Bronze ad hoc is £400. That really is that. If you're interested in taking up any of those offers, just send me an email to info@improvingperformance.co.uk with the code IMPRPRF. Send the code IMPRPRF to info@improvingperformance.co.uk, and you'll be subject to the 20% discount, but it's got to be done by 11:59 and 59 seconds tomorrow night on the 19th of November 2019. Or you could just go into my calendar and book a half an hour slot for the Focused Advanced Results, as I said before, the Focused Action Results, as I mentioned previously. And that's on www.improvingperformancecalendar.as.me. That's improvingperformancecalendar.as.me. And you can book your 30 minutes there for the career advance and development. All that information is on my website or on my Facebook page or on the Facebook groups. So any of those programs you can find right there. You can contact me, engage with me without necessarily working with me on the emails I mentioned before. You have the 3 Facebook situations. You've got Improving Performance Personal Coaching, which is the Facebook page, and you have the 2 groups, the Generation X Career Advance and Development Group and the Career Advance and Development Group in itself. You can contact via Instagram, which is Improving Performance, and I think I've also got Improving Perf as my ID on Twitter. That's Improving Perf, PERF. And obviously you've got the website www.improvingperformance.co.uk, and there's also a YouTube page where I keep all of these videos as well as a repository. So of course you can find them on the vlogs and blogs on my website with some supporting information, but all of the videos you'll find are on YouTube. Okay, thank you very much. The next time that we speak will be on Monday, the 2nd of December at 8 p.m. We moved it forward tonight simply because I'm a sad man and I want to watch The Jungle. What can I tell you? It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time, and I look